Well, hello. Every gal needs a cowboy hat.
Scanning the room, you look for a familiar face. Everyone is a stranger. Your heart's racing, you feel nauseous. New plan. You meet 4 new people. Okay, 3. 2? You can handle 2. And then you think, I hate this. This just feels so fake. And before you talk to even 1 new person, you're looking for the nearest exit.
Okay. Crazy. Yo, who invited this chick?
My heart races when I walk into a room full of strangers too. Except it's not anxiety, it's excitement. I'm not thinking networking quota. I'm thinking, look at all these stories. And I get so pumped about talking to people that I don't know.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Woo! Is everybody happy? Happy New Year. What a great way to start our first show of the year. And that song is played for our guest today, Deb Coman. I asked her what would be a song that she likes. I don't know if she's going to lip sync or dance to it, but we played it anyway. So, and a great way to start for 2022 and how to show up. So my name is Gail Robertson. My company is GailNow. And I help manufacturers tell their stories. I use curiosity with my 3-step process. So I help them sign up, suit up, and show up. And that is where you can have the greatest success when you're willing sometimes to step outside your comfort zone. And one of the things that you may need to help you along the way is content. For some people, that may not come too easily. So that's why we have content creators and we have content plans and content development. One of the things I've noticed is people have great stories, but sometimes they don't see them and they need some help pulling them out and helping share them through social media. So we're going to be talking to Deb Coman today about that because she is someone who does help businesses with their content creation. So I am now going to welcome Deb to come on stage from the green room. Welcome, Deb.
Hi, Gail. Thanks so much for having me here.
No problem. Thank you. I'm just going to adjust here's my camera here. I actually have, speaking of showing up, I have a new camera. There we are. Okay. Welcome. So excited because you are coming a bit over from the Twitterverse. And so let's start with that about, as a further introduction, we actually met through Twitter, have never met in real life, but I feel like kind of that I know you because we have shared tweets. We've shared a lot of information, ideas out in Twitter. Can you maybe give a little bit of an overview about who you are? And then we'll get into the exciting news of what you've just started.
Sure. Thanks so much. As I am a content conversion strategist, and I help people create trust building content that leads to sales, connections, collaborations, referrals, all the things we want in our business in a way that feels aligned with what we're all about. And it doesn't have to be pushing against so much as finding your flow and stepping into the content that's out there already to help guide what you're going to create for yourself as well.
I love that you talked about strategy because that is also so important. It's not a matter of only just like dropping information. It's also about what information. And can we talk a little bit about stories and what are your thoughts on people's stories? And do you find it difficult to get people to share them?
For sure. And I think, as you know and live and breathe, stories are connectors, right? It's what gives us something to kind of rally around. It sparks our own curiosity and interest when we hear other people's stories. And often many of us, start thinking of our own stories that relate to whatever that is that that person is sharing, or that brand or that company, right? That's what pulls us in. And although it's a challenge for many business owners and brands to figure out how to exactly begin that process, I think we can learn a lot by seeing how others do it well and recognizing often that it's the most simple stories that pull people in, right? It's not necessarily the thing you would write a chapter in a book or something like that. It's the story of your day, it's the story of what's important to you, because they let us know essentially what you value, what's important in your life, and often, probably always, that translates to what's important in your business and the people that you do business with or serve. And that's, it is a challenge. People feel often unclear on where that line is. We had a discussion the other day about this on Twitter, about how far is too far, what's comfortable, what's too much information, and where that line is. And I think it's very personal. And yet, the more we can kind of push into that a little, show up like the way you do and encourage others to do, we learn that that can be the thing we've been holding back can be the very thing that really makes really meaningful connections for us.
That is a good segue into, we're going to come back to that about simplicity, but I want to just segue into connections, because we have the one, the only Jim Fuse is in the house, and we know Jim is from big on Twitter. That's where I first met him. I've worked with him on a project, and amazing. And I know he's doing amazing work with Dealcasters Live, and it's just featured. So you should go follow him on Twitter as well as LinkedIn. In fact, I see some people popping up here, and yep, Jim is here. We have, David Chrysler, who I met through also networking and manufacturing. He talks a lot about process. Again, go follow him. If you want to learn about your business and how to get ready for the new year and beyond and want to learn about process, that's David. We have Lori Sika, who has Simple Stories Pull People In. Lori, I know from Twitter. Don't know her as, I know her mostly from Twitter. So I think you know Lori really well, right? So
I do.
Yeah, and we have Tim Sohn. So thank you, everybody, for dropping your information in the comments. Please continue to do that and connect with each other, because what I really see exciting about doing these live shows is, yes, it's fine to come listen, but the networking that happens in the comments, that's where it's really amazing, where you can meet people. John Buglino. John, I also know from manufacturing, and I think USA Manufacturing, that's a Twitter chat. So yeah, and Tim Sohn, oh my God, the Tim and Jim show, another great live show that people should check out. So for people new that are checking out some of the people that have commented on the show today, please go check them out and go listen to their shows, and even go back and listen to some of the older ones, because that's the thing with live shows. They have a long shelf life, and we can repurpose content.
You're speaking my language.
Repurpose content. Yes, that's going to be my big mantra for 2022, is how can we go back, and because sometimes it's a matter of, we invest so much in a show like this, right? And then it can just drift off when there's so much rich information that we can share. So and Tim has a couple of shows as well. So anyways, please go connect with people. We'll probably circle back to comments. Yes, simplicity, sharing stories. A lot of the people that are in the chat right now are all people that do that. And one of the things that, when you're sharing stories, and we can maybe delve into this a bit more too, is what you said is how much is too much. And, for me, sometimes I used to think, am I too much? And then I'm like, hey, that's who I am. That's part of my brand, right? I like to come on singing. I like to lip sync, but that's me, and it's not everybody. So maybe can you talk about that, about finding that comfort zone when it comes to what to share, and maybe relieve a bit of pressure from people that they don't have to sing, dance, lip sync, or share their most personal stories.
Yeah, for sure. And my children thank you for me not having to dance or lip sync today. So maybe some people can relate to that too out there. Although we don't always have to do what they want. But that's the thing, Gail, is I think we really need to find where our comfort zone is and take a look at what's going on about that, right? And what are the stories that we're telling ourselves about why we shouldn't share that thing or show up a certain way. And that's a lot of what I do in my work too, is help people with what's going on in the background of before you even create your content or engage with content that's out there. What are your thoughts about it? Some people feel they're not good writers because of what happened back in sixth grade English class. Some
Mm.
people feel, they're not confident because of something that happened when they showed up a certain way. So those are important. And the more that we can bring that to the surface and perhaps even share that if we're comfortable with that level of vulnerability, that those are connecting points. That's when people
Mhm.
say, "Oh, that happened to me," or "I can relate because of this." And then what happens? They tell their story. Now you have even more wonderful content that is meaningful, that's about people and brands and brand stories that we get pulled into, and that builds trust. And that's really what happens when we're willing to stretch a little bit. And yeah, sometimes we may feel, oh gee, I wish I kind of didn't share that or show up that way, but what did I learn? And that's the beauty of it as well.
That's perfect. And Lori wrote, the backstory for sure. There's so much backstory, especially in, you are doing more work in the service industry. I do work in manufacturing. And what I found most exciting about manufacturing is, their tagline overall is, the people that make things. So there's all this, every time I look at a plastic item, device, medical device, car parts, I'm like, wow, if we didn't have these people in manufacturing doing this, we wouldn't be able to function. And so we have also Tim Stone wrote, sharing stories makes us more relatable. Also so true. Tim also has a show on perspectives on cancer, which is also about sharing. And that's a more deeper in depth, like people are sharing some personal stories. And what I like about live streaming is that you can find something for everyone, right? And that's what's exciting about. And I see James Kunkel is here, and I know I'm going to be actually on his show. He also talks about building up. We're going to be talking in the new year. Fascinating what people are doing in manufacturing too. And I'm seeing the shift because there's so much opportunity. So let's jump to your work, because you have Deb Coman in your name, social trust. So before we're going to circle back, I have a few more questions, but social trust. You have just launched a Twitter chat, which is no small feat. I have been a guest on them. I talked to Natalie Gregg about them. It's not easy. So congrats for showing up. Tell us a little bit about that Twitter
Thank
chat.
you so much. So what happened for me and why this just started, Monday was the first ever of the Social Trust Twitter chat and Spaces. I just enjoy my time on Twitter. It feels easy. It feels meaningful. The people I've met there, like you, like Lori, even Jim and I have connected there before. It's just leads to so many opportunities where we get to learn about other people, we get to hear their stories, find out how they're showing up in the world and how we can shine a light on their work as well. And I realized that, hey, if this has been such a wonderful experience for me, how can I bring this to other people? I was creating trust with my content, my engagement, my tweets, and there was kind of a system I was using that I didn't even realize because it felt natural. And it's one that, right, we all find this. We think, well, what's that? That's nothing, right? Because we do it without thinking, but not everyone does. And when we can teach others how to do that or show how to do that, it's so valuable to them. So that's where the Social Trust Twitter chat came from, to have a place to bring experts in, to have conversation on Twitter and in audio through Spaces, to talk about how we build trust with our content, with engaging online, even more so than what we're creating in terms of our own content. And that's how it happened. The new year seemed like a great time to get started. And it opens even more doors. So when you talk about like how showing up and being willing to step in, you're right. There are a lot of pieces to running a Twitter chat, but what I get back is just more than enough to keep me doing it. So
Well, you certainly have lots of content to work from. I checked in, as you know, on Monday, and I couldn't be completely immersed, do some other projects, but I was following along. And uh, this is maybe a good segue to talk about social trust and how trust is really important right now on social media. So maybe we can go into your transferable skills, because I think you understand trust because you do understand the backstory. You understand the inner workings of content when it comes to building that trust. So can we talk a little bit about your background and the skills that you bring? Because as I said, I come from a journalism background writing, but you don't, but you don't have to.
No, you don't. And talk about what you're comfortable sharing or not. Being in marketing and not having a marketing degree, I know there are a lot of people out there, because once I said that, other people said neither do I. And you know what? What matters is how we show up today and the backstory that got us there. For me, I started out with a psychology degree. I worked in nonprofit human services, particularly in the mental health community mental health. I was working directly, providing services, and then ultimately managing um, communities of people who, back then it was called, they were living with severe and persistent mental illness. Talk about the backstories. These were people who were hospitalized for literally decades, some their entire adult life. Many had given up on the system, the people, families had often given up on them. And our work was to help them get back into the community. And they did. In talk about resilience, strength, ability to show up.
Mm,
We can always learn. We can
mm.
always, with the right kind of conditions and support, do really the things that seem insurmountable. And I watched people get jobs, have relationships, get married, live outside the hospital and be successful. And that has stayed with me and always will, no matter what I do in my work, because those backstories tell part of the story, but it's also about what we do going forward.
That is, wow, you have nailed it with that. And Lori just wrote gold. What matters is today and the backstory that got us to today. That is a mic drop moment, Lori. Thank you. That is so true because, as you know, I also talk about curiosity. And especially in our world right now, I'm finding, things are elevated. There's so many tensions. And people have heard me talk about this many times. My quote that I have really am choosing to live by, and I first heard about it on the show Ted Lasso. It's a Walt Whitman quote: be curious, not judgmental. And I've since heard another podcast where they said, if you can't be judgmental when you're curious, because as soon as you start to look around corners and ask more questions, and that's also how you build trust. Because I always say too, from my years as a journalist, I remember one time someone came to me and said, oh, you can't believe what you read. And I go, no, you can't. And I think this person, I always marched to a bit different beat, I would say, when it came to my journalism world. But I said to him, no, you shouldn't. And this person was completely shocked, because I said, it's one perspective. It's not the only way of looking at it. So that's why to this day, I always try to read different things, listen to different podcasts, and not always what I agree with. I really like to listen to the times to things that are counter to because I learn. And that is, to me, that is something that, so if I come on your chat one day, I'll probably talk about trust, because we have to build that trust on social media and not, make sure that we are building that. And with your background, that's amazing that you have that from the mental health perspective.
Thank you so much. And I know you asked about why is trust important now, and it's always been important, and it's how we, and I know you know this as well as those tuning in today, that it's how we make all our decisions in business and in
Mm.
life. What do we trust within ourselves, within the person we're considering working with or buying from or collaborating with? It's a part of everything. So if we can harness our own ability to build that trust with others for our business, our brand, that is going to take us to places we wouldn't otherwise get to.
That is so true. And I was just, as you're talking, I was thinking about, again, all the elements of trust and relation building. When I was a manager and hiring people, I used to always say it's like I can teach people certain skills, but what I always try to look for is who can I trust? Who do I know has my back when I'm not in the office, when I'm away, when I need them, do they understand the messaging that they can carry forward? And yeah, trust.
Yeah. And we there was a little conversation on Twitter the other day. I wish I could remember exactly where it started, but it came into the Twitter chat, it came into the spaces where we had conversation. It was that when you're out there online, you're either building trust or eroding trust.
Mm.
And it just struck me that, isn't that the truth? That and many businesses and brands have eroded trust. I mean, have not shown up the way they said they were going to show up. And it's hard to come back from that. You can. We had a discussion about that too. How do you go back? Do you go back to the basics and rebuild the trust if it's been eroded? But if we start from that place and our focus and intent is to continually build and deepen trust, then that's going to take us a long way. That's going to really become ingrained in what our brand and our business is all about.
Now you do a lot of work more in the service, more to consumers. So do you have any? Is there any stories that where someone has built trust, and it's equated back to building their business? They've been able to start small, build up. Do you have any stories that like that?
Yeah, so in so many ways. I mean, really that people who, for instance, I worked with clients who knew or felt that they had to get into live streaming, right?
Mm.
Everyone's doing it, everyone's got to do it. So they did all the things of showing up, with a bit of a studio and a polished look and scripts and teleprompters. And they struggled a bit to feel comfortable. And people kind of pick up on that. Now, we should always champion those people who make the effort because there's a learning curve to all this stuff. So this isn't about doing it perfectly. But the
Mm.
more she was supported, and we did a lot of work around this about the mindset, what she was telling herself about how to show up online, how to do a live stream. And the best thing that ever happened to her was things making a mistake. And I say, the best mistake you could ever make was she lost the script or she lost her place. And she kind of laughed and started just talking to people. And things shifted for her. Now she runs her own show and it's brought her so much business and opportunity because she just found that place where she could be who she was and also feel supported to know that's not only enough, but that's exactly what the people who need you need to see happen.
That is great. And you said a really important word around perfection. And I know Inger, who's helping, she helps with some background work with me, and she just did a post about that. There was a poll about, is perfection possible? Something to that effect. And I don't know, because if you're aiming for perfection, you're going to constantly be disappointed. You're going to be run down. And instead, it's really is about how can I do the best for today, and march on. And yes, doing live streaming, oh my goodness, it is the best place for me anyways. I like it because, hey, there's no go back. It's like, well, we're live here. If I miss something, if the sound doesn't work, and you find workarounds. I also think it makes you more creative too, because you just have to fix it.
And we show up how we really are in those situations, right? This is it. There are no do-overs. And that's a really good thing because when people hire us and work with us, this is who they get, right? Not the scripted, polished version. They get the who we are day to day. So the more we can open up, tell our stories, show who we are, the more people are going to trust us. And then when they work with us more closely, they say, oh yeah, this is aligned. This is what I thought she would be like. This is what I thought the experience would be like.
Yes.
And that just builds even more trust.
It's funny because sometimes we don't even see it ourselves. Sometimes it takes another person. That's why I always said it's good to work with someone else around content development, and even for myself to get other people to point out things about me, because there was things like the curiosity thing that has been coming up. And I was like, I don't know, this is who I am. I would do this. And then the more I started looking into it, and I went, oh yeah, this is, and it ties into my journalism brain when I said to that person, like, don't believe everything you read, because you should be curious. You need to not take one person or one tweet or just one way of looking at the world or a situation, because there is more than one. We're gonna do a pull up some of the comments, not tweets. We'll get over to that in a minute. So we have Russ Hedges in the house. Russ is also active on Twitter. He has, I don't know, he has so many shows. I have lost count. I'm always seeing his live stream shows. He always has amazing guests on, and really is someone who lives his brand. If you're not following, please do so and catch some of his shows. He has some amazing content, and I often have to go back and listen to some of his because I missed them live. But again, repurposing, there's opportunities to go back and listen. We did have, so Lori, yes, I'm sure Inger will drop the post about perfection. She'll drop the link in there for you. And we're going to kind of go back some, because we missed some of the comments. We have Lori talked about your backstory. And let's see here. Let me just see who else is in this. Oh, now we have, Tim said, thank you for showing up to support Showing Up and Tim and Jim's show. And we have also Katie McDermott. Oh, I love manufacturing, my favorite topic. Oh, Katie, I don't know. I'm trying to think whether we are connected. We may be. If not, we'll have to definitely connect. So it's also one of my favorite topics now too. So and then Tim said, such a great conversation today, right up my alley, showing up and vulnerability. So that's the other thing, is that, that word vulnerability can mean different things to different people too. What is vulnerable for one, like where my limit is different than yours or Tim and Jim, or, so, okay, we have, let me just see if we've missed any. I think we've got some of the other comments earlier. So thank you everyone for dropping your content in. Not only do you get a shout out on here, but other people get to see who you are, learn who you are. And that's where, so let's go over to engagement, and we're not talking about pre-marriage, although I guess it could be, but let's talk about how you move from your story around engagement.
Yeah, I'd love to. And engagement for me has always been part of everything I do. It's how I kind of show up and how I enjoy making connections with other people. So it's always been part of my content strategy as well. And what happened for me was after creating content, scheduling, getting it all branded and all of that, I came to a point where my interest, my energy around it was starting to wane a little bit. And I thought, well, does that mean I'm just not going to be online? I don't have anything ready to go. So I opened up, and for me, it was Twitter, but this could be LinkedIn. It could be any platform, and looked at the feed. We're responsible for our own feed, right? It's who we are connected with. It's what we show interest in. If we don't like it, we need to do something about curating the feed that we want. So I looked at what was there, and there was a comment about showing up is about engaging, not about posting content. And it really struck me as a content creator. And I thought, well, I engage, but do I do that first? Not always. So I said, well, I don't have content ready. So I'm going to just talk to the people who already have stuff on here. That's what it was. Hope your husband's feeling better. How's the dog? What happened with the vet today? Oh, you launched your new thing. How did it go? And just show up in those conversations, engage, share it, talk with people, get to know what's important to them. Say, oh, I did that too. And that creates this loop where they'll probably now come back to you and say something. And those are conversations that lead to building and deepening trust. And then I could think about, what do I want to create as a result of what's happened with these conversations that I've been having with people. So now when I open the platforms, I engage first. So we don't have to worry. I don't have something polished and ready to go. that's okay, because the ones that really, those things are important and we should have them as, of course, as part of our strategy. But so much more happens with how we engage with other people's content.
That's kind of like a rule in life. I often think it's about talking to people, asking questions, learning about them, and not only about, thrusting content out there, because we talked about that in terms of, sometimes people in real life do that well, but they have trouble with the transferring it over to social media.
Right. And social media should be like the party that we're stepping into,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Yep.
not us at the podium, whether we're speakers or not. I'm a speaker too, but it's not me stepping up to the podium telling everybody what they need to be doing. It's me stepping into the room with other people and listening to them and, like you said, asking them questions and learning what's important to them and how can I contribute to that process. How can I respond to it? How can I help connect them to someone who has their solution that might not be me? That's
Mm-hmm.
how we become trust builders. And I'm sure you've had this happen too, Gail, because I feel the same way about you, that people then will refer us when
Yeah.
they haven't even experienced our work
Yeah. Because of social trust.
because of social trust.
Yeah. There's a consistency, what I see with people. And like you said, I love that part. You said we are responsible for curating our feed. Because I sometimes hear people say, oh, I get this fighting. I go, you know what? You can decide who is in your circle, who do you follow? Because the more you're engaging, like my feed is always like amazing. Because I have a lot of people that are in the comments today, right? The Russ, the Tim, Jim, Inger, like everybody that's in the feed, it's all lifting me up. So and I always say there's a scroll button for a reason. Sometimes I see things, I'm like, oh, I can just keep scrolling. I don't have to stop and get into, debate about everything. So thank you for mentioning that, because it that's where it comes back to content too. What you
Yeah,
share, content and engagement, those two almost like they need
yeah.
to work together.
Exactly. And when I did, so my first ever Twitter chat with the social trust chat this week, and I've been involved in other ones and I've co-hosted ones in the past, so I'm familiar with it. But still, I was blown away by how many people participated for a first ever on a Monday afternoon for some, depending on your time zone. And it's, why is that? Because they were the people that I engage with, and we haven't shared interest in each other and whatever it is that we're doing and creating. And that's how that just has such a ripple effect to build energy and build momentum. Whether they're there all the time or not doesn't matter. I said to people who said, I'm sorry I missed it, you know what, I felt your support, because we support each other all the time. We don't have to be at everything every time, but that's what happens when we are willing to take a risk. And it is a risk. I thought, what if no one shows up? What if I'm just tweeting to myself for this next half hour or so? But we have to kind of be willing to test the waters and step into some of those spaces to see what's possible and what lights us up, and then try to, build a business that is around more of that and less of the other. Let go of the stuff that's not working, that you
Yes.
hate doing. We don't need to be doing that.
And you said it best. Why do people show up? I knew people would show up because you have built connections and relationships, and that is social trust. You are living your brand. And I just want to say we have actually, John just wrote, say it, Gail, hunt the relationship. That is one thing when it comes to sales. Instead of hunt the sales, yes, you want to get the relationship going. Then the sales will come later, and it may not come. I have people that I'm now working with. It's not always about a sale. It's about them opening a door as well to someone else. That's the other part of engagement, is that it may not be that person, but they're going to pass your name on. And I'm sure you have the same experience. Russ is saying hi to a few people that he says, great info, Deb. Social trust is so important. And I know Russ is someone who does build trust. He's definitely out there living that as well. And John wrote, commenting on social is so easy. Answer one of the 1 million polls in your feed and leave a comment. You'll be amazed by the reach. Yeah. Now, the poll situation on LinkedIn is sometimes gets a bit out of hand, and I know some people hate the polls, but I think, the other thing is, I would say, just keep scrolling. If you don't want the poll, like, I stop at polls sometimes, and it's amazing. It's the comments that I really like on certain polls, and I think that's and then and then Inga wrote, wow, John, love that. And John wrote, Inga, I'm going to get swag going.
I love what John mentioned about reach. And that's the thing that happens when we engage, right?
Yes.
Is when we engage with other people's, whether they're polls or tweets or short posts here on LinkedIn, when we engage, that audience sees us. So you're right, Gail, 100,000% that it's not about looking with the intention of a sale or a referral. It's the intention is the trust building and the relationship that, as you said, will open doors to perhaps sales or collaborations or more referral. And when we show up in other people's content, we tap into their audience.
Right.
And they see how we're showing up and how we're contributing or detracting from the conversation. And that's what helps us expand our reach and ultimately grow those potential opportunities.
That is so true. And I would say today, I noticed a few people, I think, did connect today in the chat. So that is great. I think we're going to start to wrap up. And I love that there's so much great content here that applies to whether you're in service, whether you're in manufacturing, because, it's like building relationships. It's building relationships, period. And building relationships and, using content, engaging, and then that's how people will find you and connect. So thank you, Deb, today. And I will say to everybody listening, please tune into Mondays at 3 p.m.
3 p.m. Eastern.
3 p.m. Eastern. Hashtag social trust. Then afterwards, there's a Twitter space. And for that, for those of you who aren't aware of Twitter spaces, that's an audio. I like to say it's kind of like Clubhouse, but not. It's very different because you get a lot more. Again, there's already engagement and people have connected on there. So thank you for being a wonderful guest today, bringing some great content. I'm going to have you go back. We'll meet you in the green room, and I'm just going to do my sign up. But thank you, Deb. Oh, one last question. Do you want to say something that you may be curious about in 2022 that you want to follow? Is there anything that you're working on that's your curiosity? Jean is working overtime.
Yeah. So certainly it's around my word that I picked this year, no surprise, is trusting in myself, trusting in this concept of social trust, and being really curious about just how far it can bring more, not just opportunities to my business, but ease and flow to my business. And it feels like when we all find that thing that we step into that just feels right, a lot of magic can happen. So I'm really excited and curious about what that's going to look like.
Yay. And we'll be following along. And the other thing, just like I said, with live shows, you can go back later and comment and listen. And the same thing with Twitter chats. You can go back, you look up that hashtag and comment on it. And, there's no time limitation. You can go back and search and make comments. And I've often done that. I've gone back and actually found really good gems later too. So great. Deb, we'll see you in the green room. Thank you for coming out today.
Thank you.
And thank everyone for listening today. Really appreciate all the great interaction. We have a few great comments. Thank you for everybody for stopping by, especially Lori. Thank you for coming over from, I think a little more from Twitter, but and some of the people here, I think that showed up today also have a presence on both Twitter and LinkedIn. That's where if you want to see my most active work, I'm usually posting on Twitter. I'm also making a few changes probably for 2022, and I'm in that process right now, and I'm allowing myself some time to kind of work through that. For those of you who've listened to past, yes, I am on TikTok, and I'm using TikTok as a place to explore with video, with short video, with content, and really interesting place to learn, because it's an up and coming platform. Well, not up and coming. It's been pretty strong for a while. But I am looking also at probably increasing a bit more presence on possibly LinkedIn and YouTube. So stay tuned, because I may do a future show where I'm going to be encouraging interaction over on YouTube. So I may ask everybody to come over there. Want to do a bit of testing, because one thing about being curious and marketing is that how can we learn from all of these platforms and utilizing social media to help not only tell those stories, but share them. And it's important that you look at social media from the perspective of, if you want to show up, how are you going to show up that works best for your goals and objectives? So if I'm doing something on social media, and just like when I'm working with clients, when I'm saying sign up, suit up, and show up, I want to make sure I'm giving them the best direction on where they should be spending their time, energy, and money to lead to their goals of obviously success with their business. So thanks everyone for coming out today. You can pretty much find me everywhere as GailNow, and also on LinkedIn as Gail Robertson. Obviously here, if you're here, you can follow me, connect with me, and yeah, have a great day. Happy 2022. Excited to get this year underway, and also look at where it will take us, and how we can use curiosity to be less judgmental as well. Happy New Year, everyone.